Hello, BookTube. I went to the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston the other day in the blazing midday heat, and just wandered around the sale carts, wandered inside, said hello to the staff. Just a wonderful, quiet interlude in my favorite used bookstore, and I found a few things, and I wanted to show them to you. They were all dirt cheap, and that's always great. That's always a plus. And talk about them a little because they definitely count as recommendations. The first one is a 2-volume Penguin Classic set that I've shown on this channel before. It's a really tough sell for BookTube or anywhere else, but it brings me endless joy, and I grab it whenever I see it, especially since my previous reading copies are kind of falling apart from the last time I went through them, so I'm in need of a new pair. And that's this. It's Ludovico Ariosto's Orlando Furioso. This is part 1 and part 2, believe it or not. The thing is actually enormous. It's a gigantic epic poem in the Renaissance by a wonderful, warm, smart, funny court poet and all-around courtier who decided to tell the mythological origins of the family he was serving, so he chocks it full of fables and legends and fantastic beasts and creatures and heroic knights and the evil hordes of Islam, the Moors who are constantly fighting the virtuous Christians. And at the heart of it is Roland, the knight Roland, who it's in an interval that's a little bit too complex to simplify. He sees something that literally drives him crazy. It makes him insane. It makes him into a ravening animal. And that's very bad news for the countryside all around him because he has superpowers. He's invulnerable and he's super strong. So if he no longer wears clothing, he's not governing his wits, his sanity is no longer his. It's gone. So he becomes furioso. He becomes mad. That's part of the story, but the rest of it is the good guys versus the bad guys and the course of true love that will eventually unite the founding father and the founding mother of the noble house that Ariosto is serving. And all that might sound very antique and unenjoyable, but the poem that Ariosto makes about it is just has to be read to be believed. It is amazingly fun. Once you get into the spirit of it, it is amazingly fun. And I would have thought completely untranslatable. And Barbara Reynolds is the translator for these Penguin Classics and the Volume 1 and Volume 2. And she does an amazing job. A job that, and this is, I can't think of any higher compliment, she does a job that Ariosto would have applauded. Captures the wit, captures the nimbleness in his own word choice. And over an enormous length of time. Penguin made the 2-volume Orlando Furioso, and they kept making it because I think it had a bit of a life in schools. And then briefly they made a 2-volume trade paperback size, which I don't have. I wish I did, because these mass markets are a little bit tough on the hand and eye at this point at 28 years old. But the one thing they haven't done that I really wish they would do, I mean, the Barbara Reynolds translation of this great poem is one for the ages. It really is. It is an unbelievable work of translation, even apart from the brilliance of the book it's translating. One thing that Penguin hasn't done is put them together into one big, fat, deluxe volume that is not part 1 and part 2, but just the Orlando Furioso, the whole thing. What I wouldn't give. I mean, they'll never do it. But what I wouldn't give if they did that, or if somebody did that, and maybe included the great Gustave Doré illustrations that he did 100 years ago. But anyway, I saw these for $1 a piece, and I had to grab them. And I will just have to resist the urge to just sink in and reread them, because they are wonderful. and as I think I've mentioned on this channel before, on top of everything else that they do right, there's also no stupid era of courtly love imbalance between the sexes. 2 of the most powerful, physically powerful characters, and 2 of the most interesting characters on the field of battle and off in the course of the poem are women. One a Moorish woman and one a Christian woman. and they captivate when they're on screen, so to speak, every bit as much as the men do. And that's quietly revolutionary on the part of Ariosto. But in addition to everything else, including there is one particular set piece action scene that you practically need higher mathematics to plot it out. How Ariosto wrote it, I just don't know. But anyway, I had to get that. And then the next one is it's a trade paperback. When I saw it for $1, I wasn't sure whether or not I had the hardcover, so I grabbed it because I really like it. And it's The Borgias by G.J. Meyer, who did A World Undone, a great book about World War One. He also did a 1-volume book about the Tudors. That's fairly good. And this is about the Borgias, and he starts off right away. I love the hand-drawn cover. Something about it. I think it's really evocative. That we don't see a face, that we don't get any dramatics. And he takes right at the beginning. He takes square aim at the fact that so much of what history knows about the Borgias was written by their enemies, and just takes nothing for granted, digs into every single thing we know about the Borgias to say, do we actually know that? And can we discern a motive on the part of the person who originally wrote that, where it first crops up in the historical record? Can we discern a motive on that person's part against the Borgias? In which case, of course, it can't be trusted. And I love that. I thought it was absolutely gripping. When I got this in galley form, I thought, another book about the Borgias. There's just no way that it will be any good at all. And I ought to teach myself not to think that way, because really good historians and writers are always surprising me. And this was a perfect case of that. So I was very glad to get it. And then a bit of a sad thing. This is Jennifer Loesch's biography of King Edward VI, the male heir of King Henry VIII, the male heir that he literally overturned heaven and earth to obtain, and finally did. So when he died, no matter what else was on his mind, he thought, well, I have a healthy boy who has a council of regents, and he will rule England. I have given England an heir, so the Tudor dynasty will continue. And Edward did. He showed enormous precocity of intellect and that enormous Tudor brain at work, but when he was a teenager, he quickly sickened and died. So it Henry didn't know, but nevertheless, it was a short life, and this is a short book, but it's a short book for the saddest reason of all, because Edward has had very long biographies, including a 2-volume one that's just incredible. The reason why this is maybe shorter than it might have been is because the author died. She died after a long bout of cancer, and this book went into the Yale English Monarch series. But who knows? It haunts me now, even still, what other books we might have gotten, and what other editions of this we might have gotten if she'd lived, because this is really good. It's thorough and searching, and it's wry, and it's very quotable. There are quips buried amidst the scholastic writing and researching. It really is the 1-volume Edward biography to have, and I finding it for dirt cheap was great, because as soon as I got back here, I checked the biography shelf out in the other room, because I used to have a battered old hardcover that actually went through a house fire, and nope. It must have fallen apart, because I didn't have it. Now I do, so this will go right on the Tudor shelf. And then the last thing is a kid's book. It's a Caldecott medal winner. It's Chanticleer and the Fox. This is I was struck by how the amazing shape that this volume is in for something that's half a century old. And it's just a children's adaptation of the story of Chanticleer from Chaucer, from the Canterbury Tales, that I remember reading a long time ago and thinking, well, that's awful textured for a kid's book. Good for them to make this so good, so much better than it needs to be. And I also love it's adapted, illustrated by Barbara Cooney, and I like how it shifts from black and white to color, sometimes with mixtures of both on the same page. I like it because if you watch carefully, you will see that the shifting the color in black and white and back and forth matches the mood of the story as it goes along. It's not just random. So I was very happy to find this. It's a perfect example of the kind of kids book that I like for myself. So there you have it. That was just a little brattle trip I wanted to share with you. This Chanticleer, a children's book of Chanticleer. Then Edward VI by Jennifer Loach. Then The Borgias by G.J. Meyer. And then The Orlando Furioso by Ariosto. All things that I will gladly add to this out of control book collection of mine. But anyway, I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.